the amazing thing is that it is not that people naturally want to be dominated, or want government, or want to be robbed. They don't want that guy who shows up at the front door. They don't say, I'm so glad you're here to force things on me and to make me pay for whatever you say I need, and not even give me a choice, and threaten to hurt me if I don't pay for whatever you decide to do, at whatever price you decide to do it. Normal people would never go along with that, and there's a reason for that. Normal people are anarchists until they are trained to imagine that a certain guy, if he shows up at your door and says, I'm with the IRS, he doesn't just say, I'm with some business. I'm with the IRS, or I'm with the FBI, or I'm with the police. State, federal, local, it doesn't matter. We are trained to believe that certain gangs, it's okay if they do this utterly insane and immoral thing. But if your neighbor did the same thing and made the same deals and the same threat, nobody would accept it as legitimate. Now, the title of this talk is Government is Not Your Friend. And some people will assume that, well, government does corrupt things and does bad things. That's not at all my point. That guy who shows up at your front door, even if he does something nice to you, he brings you a sandwich after he demands money from you and threatens you. That doesn't make the arrangement okay. That guy will never be your friend, and that guy is never going to show up to your front door with your best interest at heart. I mean, how much more obvious could that be? If somebody comes up to you that you don't know and says, I want permission to control your life and take your money and interfere with your interactions with other human beings, you really believe that this stranger is doing it because he wants what's best for you? Of course not. And nobody would think otherwise if it was just some guy in the street. But we're trained to imagine, or at least delusionally hope, that the people in government are controlling us and stealing our money for our benefit. But it's utterly insane. When people say, well, if you elect, that guy sounds so sincere, if you elect the right person, he really sounds like he cares. If somebody cares about you, they will not try to violently control you. I think that's pretty obvious. And we have to be trained from childhood to imagine an exception to ever think otherwise. And the funny thing is a lot of people will say, well, I'm scared of the market and free exchange because I'm not sure it'll handle this right. So I want government, not the guy who shows up and says, here's my price for this service, you can take it or leave it, it might hurt you either way. To be scared of him, but not to be scared of the guy who says, I'll decide what services and I'll decide the price and you have to take it or I hurt you. To think that that guy has your interest at heart more than the other guy is just loony. But the trick they use to make anybody buy it is they say, well, how about if we use it on other people? Like, I know you're not going to come to me and say, please boss me around. Who would do that? But wouldn't you like it if we could control your neighbor and make him not have those habits? Yeah, he drinks a little too much. Well, we'll make it so he can't drink. He might play his music too loud, or he might have a car. He has a car that's fancier than yours and more expensive, and that's not really fair. So we'll take some of his money and give it to you, and you can get a better car, and he'll have to sell his car. And the temptation to use power to control the other guy is why 99% of people fall for the lie of government. The guy shows up at the door and wants to boss you around, people say, I don't want you to boss me around. But if they say, well, we can take your neighbor's stuff, we can boss him around, we can make him be the way you know he should be. And everybody who votes falls for that. Everybody who votes falls for that. That I'm going to vote for the guy who's going to fund what should be funded. And how does that work? Well, he's going to take money from that. Yes, you can take my money too. But hey, if it happens to be what I want to have happen, whether it's helping the poor or having police force, whatever it is, you know darn well the guy you're voting for isn't only going to tax you, he's going to tax the other people who disagree with you. So when everybody runs to the voting booth and tries to get their guy to win, they're not pressing that button or flipping the lever hoping the other guy will win. They want their guy to win because they want their values and preferences and what they care about forced on the other guys. And the guy who shows up at your front door, that's the only reason he has any power, is because it is so tempting to fall for that lie that hey, we can make the world better, we can make it what it should be, if you give me the power to control them and to make them hand over money to take care of the poor, to pay for defense, or whatever you think is important. Just give me the power, and I will make your neighbor behave the way you know he ought to. And as long as people fall for that, the whole world loses, except the ruling class. And the only way we ever get out of that is when all the decent people recognize that government cannot be your friend. The guy at the front door, in that arrangement, that can never be your friend, even if he gives you stolen loot from your neighbor. Yeah, your wallet may look better because government took somebody else's money and gave it to you. That does not help society any more than you going to your neighbor and robbing him yourself, which would at least be honest. The people in government, when they are giving handouts, when they are giving, we're going to help the poor, we're going to do Social Security and help the retired, and we're going to do this. Don't ever imagine for a moment that somebody who would force their agenda on you is doing it for your benefit. When you get a check from the government, there's one reason you're getting that. They are buying your loyalty with somebody else's money. And when we fall for that, we are the ones giving them power, not only over the neighbors that we want to violate control, but over ourselves. If you and your neighbor, if that guy comes to your front door and then comes to his front door, and you both say, yeah, I like this deal, but take more of his money, tell him what to do. And your neighbor is saying the same thing about you. No, make him fund the things I care about. Here's this charity I want him to give to, and here's this program I want him to fund. It puts us at war with each other forever, and the only way out of that is for people to recognize that that guy who shows up at your front door is the enemy of humanity. And what every decent, moral human being has to do is say, go away, I don't want you controlling me, and I don't want you controlling my neighbor. And even if my neighbor is obnoxious, I don't particularly like him, we don't get along, we hardly ever talk. If you try to rob him, even if you say it's for something I want, I'm on his side, not yours. When that happens, that is the beginning of freedom, and it is the end of government. Now the concept, the term anarchy, makes people freak out. Because a lot of people have been trained to mix the two meanings together. One meaning is chaos and mayhem. The other meaning is, what it actually literally means, is rule by no one. Anarchy is like monarchy is rule by one. Anarchy is rule by none. Rule by no one. It doesn't mean chaos and mayhem. It doesn't mean Molotov cocktails through windows. It means there isn't the guy at the front door bossing everybody around and forcibly controlling people's lives. And that's all it means. And it's so funny to me, both funny and frustrating, that people have this idea in their head that anarchy means we're going to mess up society. We're not going to be organized and we're not going to cooperate. All it means is we're not going to go along with the guy who shows up at the front door and says, I want to control everybody. You can still cooperate with your neighbor and trade stuff and organize whatever you want. 2 people can organize, 2 billion people can organize. The one thing you can't do is say, we have special rights. We get to force other people into our organization. We get to force other people to pay for what we care about. And that's the only thing that anarchy removes from society, is the illusion that certain people have the right to initiate violence. And that's all. And it's so amazing to me that the authoritarian propaganda has convinced so many people that chaos is what's going to result from telling those people, no, you don't get to violently control us. Imagine the lunacy of the logic that we are trained to believe, that telling that group of people you don't get to violently dominate us, that is going to lead to bloodshed and mayhem. And even if you open a history book, and I love to do this, people say, oh, if there weren't government, everything would be way worse. If we didn't accept that guy at the front door, for some reason we'd be killing and eating each other. Then we'd just be under chaos. And I say, okay, well, let's play a game. You start citing some examples of large-scale injustices and murder that resulted from a lack of authority, also known as anarchy, and I'll start listing some that resulted from authority.